The book I chose to do my book review on was What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy by James Paul G. The book dives into the theory that video games might have a positive effect on cognitive development, the connection that classrooms need to have the same creative freedom for children as provided for in video games. The author, James Paul G., was born in 1948. He graduated with his BA in philosophy from the University of Santa Barbara and his MA in logistics from Stanford University. His interest in video games was inspired from watching his son play. He began to pay attention to what the video games were actually teaching and what were the benefits his son was receiving. So the book dives into G's view. His view on literacy was not only a mental achievement, it also affects social and cultural environments. He reminds the reader that literacy is not only language, but it includes symbols, graphs, diagrams, artifacts, and other visual symbols. He also creates the term semiotic domains, which is a variety of forms that take on meanings such as images, symbols, sounds, gestures, and objects. These things he called signs, how things take on meaning in culture and different parts of history. He also talks about 36 principles of learning built into good video games. And for my review, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the top 5 that I found interesting. He also covers 3 areas of current research and how they are related to each other. So the 3 areas. The first one is situated cognition. It argues that human learning is not just a matter of what goes on in a person's head, but it also includes their environment. Second is new literacy studies, the body of work that argues that reading and writing should be viewed not only as mental achievements going on in a person's head, but also as social and cultural practices with economic, historical, and political implications. The third one is connectism, a view that stresses the way in which human beings are powerful pattern recognizers, which is true from the moment we're born, whereas a baby can't see visually fully and clearly, but he sees or she sees shapes and different forms, and that's how they do their recognition. The connection of video games and learning. Learning to experience new semiotic domain that involves in all active learning, experiencing the new world in new ways, forming new affiliations, and preparation for future learning. Learning also needs to be critical learning. Must learn how to understand and produce meaning in a particular semiotic domain. Learning and identity, recruiting identities, encouraging identity work, and reflection on identities in clear and powerful ways. If schools did this, they would be successful. I feel that if schools gave the same freedom to their students, that there would also be an increase in creative and expressive minds. So, are video games a waste of time? If you asked me before I read this book, I would probably agree slightly, and I'd probably be the same people that have the same view. To people who say that video games are a waste of time, G states that in some ways in which video games actually enrich and enlighten gamers. When playing video games, you're learning to experience the world in a new way. Second, they are gaining the potential to gain and collaborate with a new group who share the same interests. 3, they develop resources for future learning and problems. And also learning how to think about semiotic domains, how to engage and manipulate. All these involve learning actively and critically. So the top 5 principles that I found interesting that were built into good video games were active critical learning principle. All aspects of the learning environment are set up to encourage active and critical, not passive learning. It's the prime setting you want for regular schooling. This is the type of environment you need for a student to really thrive and succeed in the classroom. Achievement principle. For learners of all levels of skill, there are rewards from the beginning, customized to each learner's level, effort, growing mastery, and signaling that the learners are going on for achievements. At school, awards for mastering their sight words to completing their multiplication. The reward systems instilled in children from preschool until retirement. The development of grade levels that was once child succeeds in mastering their grade, they're able to advance to the next grade. Transfer principle. Learning are given ample support for and the opportunity to practice transferring what they have learned earlier to later problems. When a teacher provides a classroom where a child is given time and chances to learn and improve, he or she is able to thrive. Installment of work, homework, classwork, and learning to work with their peers are all part of this. Affinity group principle. constitutes an affinity group, that is, a group that is bonded primarily through the shared endeavors, goals, and practices, not shared race, nation, ethnicity, or culture. In classrooms K through 12, students are associated with themselves with other similarities that they have within each other, not always through religion and politics, but through shared sports, interest in music, and social and academic groups. Insider principle: the learner is an insider, teacher, producer, able to customize the learning experience and domain and slash game from the beginning throughout the experience. Like in video games, the teacher is able to create an environment at the beginning of the school year and change to fit the person's need of the students. So how a student is going to thrive at the beginning of the year, and you change your classroom and the environment so the kid, it kind of progresses with your students. So my review, I would say that this book really opened my eyes to what video games have to offer our society. As a mother of two young gamers, I was a little skeptical about reading this introduction. I knew that video games such as Tetris and digital chess were great for keeping the mind active, but I missed the connection in some of the more violent games such as Call of Duty and God of War, some of the games that my son likes to play. The gore and violence closed my mind to thinking beyond. But the 36 principles that were explained throughout the book made what I thought valid points. My only complaint is that it focused really 90% of the violent video games. And I thought that it should include other games that are rated E or more broad of not just. I mean, he included a couple of them like Sims, but it was mostly a lot of like war tactics or having to create something to move on. But to get there, you had to create violence or, stuff like that. So I would have changed that a little. The book was written, of course, before Minecraft was created. And I feel that that game is what's connected to more active and critical learning. Overall, I would recommend this book to other readers interested in understanding the connection of video games and learning. Thank you for watching.